In this video, we're going to kind of continue our discussion about displays. And now we're going to kind of focus in a little bit on some of the characteristics and features of displays that you need to be aware of. Now, you don't have to be experts on these things, but there are 4 display characteristics you will hear about on the exam, and you need to have just a thorough enough understanding of what these are to understand how they affect the image that you see on any particular monitor. And these are refresh rates, resolution, native resolution, and brightness or lumens. So let's first take a look at refresh rate. Now, you'll also hear this called, or it's also known as, the vertical refresh rate. And the refresh rate is the number of times in a second that whatever the display is using, whatever hardware functionality is using to create the image, this is the number of times within a second that that display hardware redraws the image or the data that's on the display. Now, in the old CRTs, cathode ray tubes, the television type monitors, you would actually detect flicker below 60 hertz, and it would drive you nuts. And so most people tried to run these up around 65, 70, 72, 75 hertz to make them look brighter and crisper and no flicker and all that sort of thing. Now, the modern flat panels that we're using, LEDs, LCDs, they generally have a refresh rate around 60 hertz or so because they don't show flicker. However, the slower that refresh rate is, the kind of jerkier or more broken you will see image movement, especially if it's really fast. So the higher the refresh rate, the smoother things seem to move around on the screen. Now, this is not so critical in monitors, but if you've ever looked at a TV and watched like a football game or anything like that, and you see these little blurry images get around people when they move really quickly, that's what you're looking at. It's a vertical refresh rate issue. It's a little bit too slow. So then there's resolution, and resolution refers to the number of pixels, little small color dots that are used to create the image that you're looking at. And we're going to talk about this more in standard resolutions, but generally the more pixels you see on the screen, like 1980 1920 by 1080, is going to have a lot more pixels on the screen, and it's going to look to the eye to be a lot clearer and a lot more distinct. But it also tends to make the picture smaller, and if you've ever looked at a monitor that a 16-year-old's using, you can't see it because it's too small. They have the resolution cranked way up for crispness, and they get more information on the screen, but it makes everything there appear smaller. But anyway, make sure you understand what resolution is. It simply controls the number of pixels used to create the image. Native resolution is the resolution at which a monitor or a display was designed to display images. And so if you've got a monitor that your native resolution is 1200 by 800 like on a laptop, and if you set it to 1024 by 768, it loses that crispness. It just doesn't look right. It looks stretched or contorted. And so that's because you're not in native resolution. So just make sure you understand native resolution is the preferred resolution that monitor was built to produce. And this is what's going to give you the clearest, sharpest image on that monitor. Now, brightness and lumens, this has to do with how bright the screen appears. And depending on different technologies that are used, a lot of other things, the brightness can be larger or smaller. You will hear this referred to as brightness, or you'll see it represented as lumens. And the concept of a lumen as a light measurement is somewhat confusing, but just match it all back to this. A 60-watt light bulb produces 840 lumens. And so just kind of think about that. And when you go look at displays like in the big box computer stores and stuff, you see all these confusing terms about lumens and brightness and everything on the tags. And again, the best way to see this is just look at the monitor and kind of establish a benchmark there. But make sure you're familiar enough with these 4 things: refresh rate, resolution, native resolution, and brightness or lumens, just to be able to kind of steer through some questions, understand what they're referring to if they mention these things. And then again, notice up there under resolution, there will be a video called Standard Resolutions out here in the course, and we'll talk about the standard resolutions like VGA, SVGA, high def, and all that other stuff. So we'll take a look at those in a separate video. Okay, so that's the display characteristics that you need to be familiar with.